But you remember when I said that, in my humble opinion, the events that are going to shape the election in November haven't even happened yet? This is the kind of thing that I was exactly talking about. The Supreme Court rulings this week, the upset of an insider, lifelong Democrat by the name of Joe Crowley, by an abject 28-year-old outsider, inexperienced communist for all intents and purposes in New York, that has shaken the Democrat Party. There are two things today that had blown the Democrat Party to the Soyuz space capsule on the way to the International Space Station. Joe Crowley losing his election. This guy was next in line to be Speaker behind Nancy Pelosi. This guy never thought he would ever lose. He hasn't been primaried in 14 years. And a veritable Bernie Sanders communist, a 28-year-old woman, comes out of nowhere promising veritable socialism and communism and wins going away. This guy's polling data had him winning by 35%. The Democrats are running around today saying, no, we haven't become a socialist party. This is the biggest joke. They have become a socialist party. They have become radicalized. And it's not happened recently. It happened with the election of Barack Hussein Obama. But the old line Democrats who still think that they're mainstream Democrats and not radicalized, despite their radical utterances and policies, are beside themselves today. This is almost, it's not quite, but this young woman in the Bronx winning is almost as big an upset to them as Trump winning the Republican nomination was to all of Washington. It's not quite, but it's close to that, folks. Because the Democrats, they think they have their old war horses wired. Their old war horses and their career politicians just cannot lose. You might think, why aren't they happy about this? The reason they're not happy about it is because the things this woman that beat Joe Crowley stands for represent about 15 or 20% of the thinking of the country, maybe 30 at the outside. There's no way they're going to win the White House with this, and they're not going to win back the House with this woman's agenda, with the Bernie Sanders. It just isn't going to happen, and they know it. They're just as radical as she is. They've just been trying to cover it up and mask it. But this woman said, I'm not covering up who I am. I am a proud Marxist, and I'm going to campaign as a proud Marxist, and I'm going to win. And she did. Bernie Sanders out there applauding her and probably promising her $1 million house after she'd been in politics a couple years as a good socialist. Then we have the Supreme Court ruling today. You just have to keep this is so big. This Supreme Court ruling on the unions, this is so big. It's so big on two levels. The first level on which it is big is it just blows the Democrat money machine to smithereens. And I'm going to give you the numbers. You've probably heard people talking about how this wrecks Democrat fundraising. Wait till you hear the numbers that they stand to lose because of this. You are going to be shocked and stunned. The second thing that's going on with this, every Supreme Court decision that has mattered this term, been 5-4 in favor of the presidency. What I think what's happening with some of these court rulings, and I've got backup on this. We got a soundbite coming from my good friend Andrew McCarthy, who was on Fox today. I think the justices on this court, I need to, this union case, this is the second time this case has been before the court. The last time, it was a 4-4 decision because Antonin Scalia had died. They brought it back. Gorsuch, the replacement for Scalia, during oral arguments of this union case, didn't say a word, didn't ask a question, did not give away any thinking, any leaning whatsoever. I think what's happening here is that, and because the left is paranoid about what's Anthony Kennedy doing? When did we lose Anthony Kennedy? You lost Anthony Kennedy when you let all of these federal district judges attack the presidency in an unconstitutional way. District court judges cannot usurp the power of the executive branch and the presidency like these clowns have been doing and like the San Diego judge just did by claiming that these separated families have to be reunited in 30 days. Does the judge not pay attention to what's going on? Trump already did that by violating the law with an executive order. So this judge is out there saying Trump can't separate families. Hey, judge, families aren't going to be separated because of Trump's executive. Are you even paying attention, judge? Now, this is a left-winger out in San Diego, and they find these guys. First, you had the travel ban and these judges in Oregon and Hawaii, and then you had the travel ban, too, with a different set of judges. And I think the Supreme Court is not really standing up for Trump. They may be. I mean, I'm going to get into how they personally feel about things, but what they are doing is affirming the Constitution. What they are doing is affirming the executive power of the president. And these little district judges out there, little in comparison to the executive branch, cannot unilaterally, single-handedly tell the president of the United States what he can't do, particularly when he is engaged in executing, implementing lawful constitutional executive orders and actions. And the court's slapping these little judges down. Little judges in compared to Trump. I'm not trying to comment on things a sociology professor at Missouri State might be interested in, if you heard yesterday's program. I'm just saying that this is bigger than anybody knows. And the Democrats are starting to figure it out. Look at it this way. Supreme Court, by single vote margins, 5-4 margins, has been clawing back freedom for the American people at breakneck speed. Close calls, yeah. But, folks, this isn't horseshoes. 5-4 may as well be 9-0 in terms of the power of the final result. There are no moral victories at the Supreme Court, as they say. Trump candidates are winning on the Republican side. The drive-bys are beside themselves. The media can't believe it. Trump-endorsed candidates in the Republican primaries are winning. That's not supposed to happen. They're supposed to be driving a wedge between Trump and his voters. This is not supposed to happen. Meanwhile, this proud socialist/Marxist/communist wins a big win in New York, ousting a 100-year term Joe Crowley. Yes, damn right, folks. I do want our guys running against Marxists. We're still the United States of America. I'm not worried about our guys running against Marxists. I am worried about our guys running against Marxists, passing themselves off as standard old-fashioned liberals. I love these Marxists coming out of the woodwork and proudly proclaiming they love Marx and they love Engels and they love you paying for everything for everybody that wants whatever they want. I love them coming out and telling you should erase the borders and let anybody into this country get in, and you should pay for whatever they want after they get here. I love them campaigning on that. Bring it on. This is exactly what I meant when I said we don't know what the issues are going to be in the November election yet. So all this polling data showing this gigantic blue wave, that was nothing more than news making. That was news manufacturing, which is what the drive-by media does. There's another poll out there, and this one is Axios. Axios is a Bible for millennials. It's a millennial news site, and they do stories this way. They have a new format at Axios. Well, it's not new, but it's relatively new. Their audience is millennials. Part of this is marketing. They'll give you a news story. They'll give you one paragraph, and the next paragraph is, what does it mean? Because they know that their readers not smart enough to figure it out. Then after they explain what it means, they do another paragraph of the story, and then the next paragraph, why is this important? So it's being tailored to millennials and what would you say, casual encounters with the news kind of people. And this poll, 92% of Republicans think the media is just making it up. 70% of the American people think the media is making it up. Now, you might say, they don't care. Oh, yes, they do. They most certainly do. I have gone various places on the web today looking at certain sites where the journalists there offer their little tidbit opinions, and I've seen some tweets, and they are worried about this. Hey, these people, like anybody else that does a job, they want to be respected doing it. And if they're trying to fool people, it isn't working. Don't doubt that they are worried about this poll. This is not a poll that runs in some Republican-oriented publication or was conducted by some Republican or conservative-related group. 92% of Republicans, it's not just don't like the news. They think it's being made up. 70% of the American people think the media is making it up. And by the way, I'm going to sit here and take a little credit for this because it's been a theme of this program for 30 years. And then here comes the Trumpster, and he puts a name to it all, fake news. It's working. The American people are being educated, but they're also living it. They're seeing it. I mean, for how many months in a row were the American people told that Trump colluded with Russia? This is just one example. How many months? And at the beginning of that, how many people do you think bought it and believed it? Because it was everywhere. And it was in the institutions of journalism. It was in the New York Times. It was in the Washington Post. It was CBS. It was on NBC. It was on CBS, ABC. It was on the Law. It was everywhere. And at the outset, I'm sure a lot of people believed it, and maybe even some of you were worried. Oh, my God, I hope it didn't. So here we are. We're approaching 2 years of this. Today, there isn't a scintilla of evidence. And I'm telling you, people know this. The news media is demonstrating without anybody having to tell them that they're making it up. That they're using anonymous sources that nobody has any backup for. In addition to that, here it is. Right here, my formerly nicotine-stained finger from the Atlanta Federal Reserve. On June 27th, which is today, the hashtag GDP Now model, just like there's a model for climate change, a model for weather forecasts, a model for this, a model for economic activity. There's a GDP Now model out there at the Atlanta Fed. They're estimating, are you ready for this? First, let me ask, do you remember when the world laughed at Donald Trump when he said we could not ever reach 4% growth GDP? Remember how the world laughed? Remember how the Democrats and the media laughed? Remember how this is delusional? Trump is delusional. This is dangerous. Building people's expectations up like this, it's unheard of. You can never be that high again. It can never be that high again. Obama told us and proved it can never be that. Remember all of that? Today, the GDP Now model estimate for real GDP growth, Q2 2018, 4.5%. That's the estimate. We'll see if it happens. We're going to get the number pretty soon because Q2 ended or will end on June 30. Yeah, June 30. And so we'll find out pretty soon. If it's 4%, 4.5%, and the economic statistics we have today fully support the possibility. I mean, there's more egg on the face of all these couldn't be done, can't be done. Trump shouldn't be promising things like this. It's not possible in the world today to grow like that. And of course, who says that? People who don't know how to make it happen. And in large part, people who don't want it to happen. Because wealth creation leads to independence, and that's not what big government controllers want. We've also had all this corruption at the Department of Justice, and the FBI has been exposed. There's much more work to go on that, but Trump's victory prevented the corruption getting the Jimmy Hoffa treatment. In other words, the corruption at DOJ is not buried at the old Giant Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. It's out in the open, and everybody is seeing it. Good day for the markets today. So let's review. Supreme Court has been clawing back freedom for the American people at breakneck speed. Close calls, but it doesn't matter. A win is a win at the court. Trump-endorsed candidates winning on the Republican side. Bernie Sanders, socialist communists winning in key places on the Democrat side. News media, 92% of Republicans think they make it up. 70% of the American people think they make it up. Unemployment at record lows. Employment at record highs. And the GDP appears to be ready to pop beyond significant improvements that we've already booked. So, it's none of this. 6 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, none of this was foreseen. So every poll that was taken 3 weeks ago, throw it out. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter then either. Back in a moment. The factions in the Democrat Party. Now, I just, off the top of my head, in the middle of improvising, and as I always do, ad-libbing each monologue I do, I referred to them as the socialist, Marxist, communist wing versus the standard, ordinary, liberal Democrat. My friend says that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is call it the progressive, let's see, what is it? The radical wing versus the progressive wing. I think that would be better. The radical wing of the Democrat Party versus the progressive wing. I maintain to you that this term progressive is one of the biggest lies in all of politics. And the reason I don't call them progressives is because they're not. They are regressives. They want to take us back to poorer economic times, larger and bigger government. They want to roll back free. There's nothing progressive about these people, and I'm not going to call them that. They're socialist Marxists. I don't believe there's any difference. When you get right down to it, between the radical Democrat Party, the radical leftists, and the so-called progressives, the difference is that the Pelosi and Schumer types wish they'd shut up about it and mask who they are rather than be open about it. But I don't think there's much. I think the radicals have taken over this party, and people like Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton have been forced to go along with it. If these people, I've been thinking about this. When Bill Clinton's out there saying Donald Trump threw poison down the throat of America, something like that. If these people, these so-called moderate liberal Democrats like Hillary, so-called, and Bill, if they disagreed with the way these radicals and Marxists are taking their party, they would do something about it. They would leave it, or they would try to marginalize these. They haven't done that. They have gotten more radical right along with them. That's been one of the most amazing things to me to observe, is all these old warhorse Democrats that nobody really thought as radicals, they're signing on with it. And it's all because they can't stand Trump, so they're all singing from the same refrain. Anyway, oops. Let's go to the Supreme Court ruling on the unions. I don't think people are yet aware how momentous and huge this is. A lot of people are focusing on it, properly so, just like a lot of people are focusing on Joe Crowley losing in New York to the 28-year-old millennial Marxist. And of course, now people on that, people are going to say, this is going to worry the Democrat leadership. Is the Democrat leadership a wake-up call for them? Or are they going to realize that just one district doesn't really represent anything? If you people at the Democrat Party, if you want to know what this means, I'll be glad to tell you. And folks, don't worry about it because they never listen to me, even when I try to help them. But I'm going to explain this. But this Supreme Court ruling... excuse me, wait till you hear the money that we're talking about. Here's the nub of this. The Supreme Court today ruled 5-4 that non-union workers cannot be forced to pay fees to public sector unions. Samuel Alito wrote the court's opinion. He said, compelling individuals to mouth support for views they find objectionable violates the cardinal constitutional command, and in most contexts, any such effort would be universally condemned, meaning these people cannot have their First Amendment rights violated by unions. The unions can't first coerce money from them and then redirect that money to causes people don't believe it. Do you know how long this has been going on? This has been going on not only with fees, but union dues and any other myriad number of ways unions collect money from members. Now, let me explain something before I go further into this, because I've previously characterized this whole arrangement between the Democrat Party and unions as kind of like a money laundering agreement. And here's how it works. The Democrat Party can't go to the United States Treasury and write a check for $100 million every election. Yet they end up getting it. How? How do they do it? Well, look at Obama's stimulus. That stimulus package ostensibly was to rebuild schools and roads and bridges. It was to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure, but that's not what the money went to. That money was about $800 billion, and now, you know, I get the M's and the B's. 800. It was almost $1 trillion. What? No. Can't be. That's 1/3 of the budget. It had to be 800 million. The money went to unions. It went to unions at a time of a recession where people were losing their jobs left and right. That money kept union employees employed. But the reason that was important is because union employees working meant that fees and dues could be extracted from them. And a significant percentage of that goes back to the Democrat Party as political contributions. And so federal programs that appropriate money to unions is really a secret way of having a portion of that money get back to the Democrat Party. It's a very clever money laundering operation. What? 831. It was billion. I had forgotten. You'll forgive me, folks. You know, the Brinks truck brings my check, and sometimes these B's and these M's, the millions and billions, they get confused in my head. Yeah, $800 billion, and a great percentage of that went to unions to keep them employed. School unions in Wisconsin and California, we documented all of this, and then those people have their dues collected and other fees, and a portion of that goes back to the Democrat Party. So where Obama couldn't go to the Treasury and write the Democrat Party a check for $100 billion, million, whatever dollars, he can get it this way. And the Democrats have been doing this for years. And the origination of it is all of these fees and dues that the unions have been demanding from members. The court said today that non-union workers cannot be forced to pay these fees to public sector work. Did you know that the unions were able to extract this money from non-union employees too? They were. That is what has ended. Now, this story is at CNBC. The case, one of the most hotly anticipated of the term, concerned whether public employees can be forced to pay fees that fund the work of public sector unions. Some experts have said that a holding in favor of Janus would be the most significant court decision affecting collective bargaining in decades. Mark Janus was an employee at the Illinois Department of Health Care and Human Services. He asked the court last summer to overrule a 40-year-old Supreme Court decision that found that public sector unions could require employees affected by their negotiations to pay so-called agency fees, which have also been called fair share fees. Those fees, approved by the court in 1977 in a case of called Abood v. Detroit Board of Education, covers collective bargaining costs, contract negotiations, but they're meant to exclude political advocacy, but they don't. Okay, so that's the ruling. Non-union workers cannot be, and believe me, there are many more non-union employees in America than there are unionized. Unionized employee percentage is it's at an all-time low, which If that's the case, how do the unions keep sending so damn much money to the Democrats? If union membership is at an all-time low, and it is, then how the hell does the SEIU and the teachers' unions and all these, where do they get the money to send to the Democrats? Now let's go to the numbers. You want to hear the numbers affected. Now, the numbers I'm going to give you are contributions 2017, 2018. Not all of this is going to be lost, just a percentage of it. The percentage donated by non-union, the forced, this is no different than a union boss reaching into a non-union employee's back pocket or checkbook and writing himself a check claiming you owe us this because you are benefiting from union contract negotiations and so forth and so on. The American Federation of Teachers, 2017, 2018, donated $6.5 million to the Democrat Party and various liberal groups, none to Republicans. The American Federation of State, City, Municipal Employees, $5,027,000, all to the Democrat Party and liberal groups. We are up to $11.5 million just with two unions. The National Education Association, $2,300,000, 95% of it to the Democrat Party and liberal groups. The American Federation of Government Employees, $1.8 million. Same scenario, most of it to Democrats and liberal interest groups, a smidgen to Republicans. The International Association of Firefighters, $1.5 million. Now, looks like about 30% of that went to Republicans, the rest to the Democrat Party. The National Association of Letter Carriers, $833,000. The American Postal Workers Union, $611,000. This is all in 1 year. The National Active and Retired Federal Employees Association, $481,000. The list keeps going. There aren't but three of these groups that gave any money to Republicans. That's why there is abject panic today in the Democrat Party. Let's go to the audio soundbite, starting with soundbite number 2, Jeffrey Toobin on CNN. Did you hear about CNN's ratings? CNN's audience last week fell below that of the Food Network. The Food Network outrated CNN. And I'll tell you this, the Food Network doesn't have anywhere near the overhead CNN does. And there's no reporter for the Food Network has ever been told to go home at a Donald Trump rally. Food Network people probably welcomed Trump rallies. The numbers we're talking about here are, I'll find it in a minute. I want to go to Jeffrey Toobin. This morning on CNN, the anchor at Poppy Harlow is talking to Toobin as a chief legal analyst. She says, Jeffrey, how significant is it in a time when we've already seen the decline of unions in this country?
It's a real blow. This is another 5-4 conservatives winning decision, like the travel ban case yesterday, like the abortion free speech case yesterday. 3 opinions in 2 days, all of which illustrate how successful it was that Mitch McConnell stopped Barack Obama from appointing Merrick Garland and saved that seat for Donald Trump. Many Democrats believe stole that seat for Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, Mr. Toobin, let me give a different perspective. I don't deny McConnell did that, but certainly not unprecedented. You guys have written the book on denying Republican presidents their judicial nominees. You've written the book on delaying confirmation votes. So don't start whining and moaning about Merrick Garland, because we don't have any tears for you, buddy. Our smiles are too broad. The idea here that the court, 5-4, another conservative winning decision. Jeffrey, what you need to consider is that the Supreme Court is defending the presidency here in some of these cases. Not Trump. They are defending the Constitution because your little judges out there in the hinterlands are usurping their authority by claiming they can stop federal executive action from their little courthouse bench out in Bohunk, Oregon. No offense, Oregon. There's much more. I have to take a break, though, because of the programming format. Don't go away. Union employment, unionized workforces around the country have been shrinking for the longest time. Government unions are growing. And a lot of this government union money ends up in the pockets and the coffers of the Democrat Party, but not as much anymore. A couple of more sound bites here. Judge Knapp's, the human Eddie Munster, at Fox News this morning. He was on with Bill Hemmer. Question, Judge Knapp's, have you considered the financial impact of a ruling like this on unions in America?
The word is catastrophic. The only reason, the principal reason, the public sector labor unions have survived to 2018, they're 100 years old, is because states have forced employees to join them. If you look at it from Republican versus Democrat, as you were just discussing with Andy McCarthy, because of some crazy phenomenon where blue-collar union members tend to be more Republican, but their labor union leaders tend to be more Democratic. This is catastrophic for the Democrats.
Right. Even though there is, he's right here, significant Republican blue-collar membership in unions, they don't have any control over where their donations go, or the fees extracted from the union bosses do, and that all goes to Democrats, as we demonstrated here with the figures that I just gave you. It's massive. It's genuinely massive. And stop and think of it. As union membership has shrunk, union donations to the Democrats have grown. How does that happen? By virtue of this coercion. Now, here is Andy McCarthy on with Sandra Smith earlier today on the Fox News channel. And she said, Andy, you say that conservatives are on a roll in Supreme Court. The travel ban was the first big ruling in a Trump administration policy. Does this give the administration some momentum?
It does two things. It vindicates the presidency more than it does President Trump, because these are powers of the presidency, whoever is the president. But from President Trump's perspective, the very disturbing thing about the federal judiciary since he's become president is they've tried to install this jurisprudence of Trump, that he somehow, because he is a unique president, is not entitled to all the prerogatives and all the legal privileges that other presidents have. And I think the court's effectively given that the back of the hand.
Exactly. That is exactly have you heard during the travel ban, even some of these left-wing Democrats, I think even the judge in Hawaii said if any other president had authored this, we couldn't have stopped it. But because it was Donald Trump, we're going to stop him. Well, that's not constitutional. The president's the president. He won the election. He's entitled to the constitutional directives, protections, and responsibilities of the presidency, the executive branch. And I think Senior McCarthy here is exactly right on the money. I think the left is wondering what happened to Anthony Kennedy. He's the swing vote, usually goes with Democrats on cultural and social issues. And they say, what happened to Kennedy? What happened to Kennedy? What happened to Kennedy is that he reveres the Constitution, as he understands. I don't think there's any doubt that that is happening here. And by the way, folks, it really is important because all around us, it seems like institutions upon which we have always been able to depend are failing us. They're crumbling. And many have thought that about the Supreme Court. But in these rulings this week, the travel ban and this union case, now remember also about this union case. This union case was before the court previously, where after Justice, had been debated, oral arguments, so forth, while at the same time he died. And so a 4-4 decision, a tie decision in the Supreme Court means the lower court ruling from which the case came is affirmed. You can't overturn or reverse anything on a tie. So they brought the case back after Neil Gorsuch been confirmed, and that's the difference here. And that's why Keith Ellison, who is, I guess he's in the DNC hierarchy, he's out there claiming Gorsuch had been bribed. Yeah, that's what happened. Gorsuch was bribed. That's why he voted this way. But this is an institution rising to the moment and defending the Constitution, slapping back at these federal judges and leftists who claim that Donald Trump, because he's so Donald Trump, is not entitled to presidential powers because he's too odd, weird, unsophisticated, brutish, or whatever. Quick time out, and back. Give you a little taste of the drive-by media celebrating the demise of the white guy in New York, the Democrat, Joe Crowley, who'd been there 20 years, next in line to be Speaker. He was upset by the 28-year-old Marxist, socialist, communist babe. And here's the drive-by. See, the Democrats are trying to, oh, no, don't worry. It doesn't mean that our party is going radical left. And yet here are the leaders of their party, the drive-by media, celebrating it. We have a montage. Let's see, Matthew Dowd, Brian Williams, Henry Anton, David Chalian, CNN, Derek Hunter, Jeffrey Toobin, just a bunch of people you never heard of, but these are, because most of them are on CNN. Here is the bite.
This is a district that was over 80% non-white, and obviously Joe Crowley did not fit.
Joe Crowley, 56-year-old Irish-American white guy, defeated.
He was a white man. The Democratic Party, at least the voters, want a more diverse Congress.
It's a story of generational change, racial and demographic change.
The idea of a white man representing that district was a bridge too far for many.
It's only 20% white anymore, that district.
His district, think of the show All in the Family back in the 70s. Archie Bunker, they used to call him the white ethnics.
Okay, so this is the Archie Bunker district. Okay, so here's the media. Happy that a white guy, doesn't matter he's one of theirs, doesn't matter he's a Pelosi buddy. None of that matters because identity politics, diversity, quotas, affirmative action, that's all that matters. What people look like is all that matters. And another white guy, even though he was a beloved Democrat, has taken it on the chin, and it's reason to celebrate. Here is the woman who beat the old white guy. Her name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She is from Puerto Rico, which is also socialist and also a failure even before the hurricane. This is what? Puerto Rico wasn't. Are you trying to deny Puerto Rico was in economic trouble even before the hurricane? I'm not advocating for the hurricane. Do not misunderstand here. I mean, Puerto Rico is a Democrat voting. It's like a Democrat voting state. Maybe Steve Schmidt thinks they've better than the U.S. because they don't have child internment camps there. I don't know. But anyway, that's where she's from. Now, this is actually an ad. These Democrats, they're going to run socialists in booming Trump districts, booming Trump economy. And folks, this is going to be like Mondale in '84 running against Reagan. When Mondale went out and promised to raise taxes, and then said, Reagan's going to do that too, but he won't tell you, and I just did. And that was it for Mondale. And this is what this is going to be like. So here's a portion of an ad that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez ran during her campaign.
This race is about people versus money. We've got people, they've got money. It's time we acknowledge that not all Democrats are the same. That a Democrat who takes corporate money, profits off foreclosure, doesn't live here, doesn't send his kids to our schools, doesn't drink our water or breathe our air, cannot possibly represent us.
Oh, man, what a reprobate this guy was. He's not drinking their water and he's not breathing their air. He doesn't even live there. The Democrats just nominated some clown in Georgia in a special election who didn't live there. So they obviously don't have a problem with that. But anyway, this, folks, that's a little taste here of what is happening in the Democrat Party. You just keep in mind, is it the same people running around promising this blue wave? This is scaring the hell out of them. Believe me, Pelosi and Schumer are not happy that one of their white guys took it on the chin in New York. We have more from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but I don't have time for it right now, so we'll get to it when next hour. We get panels and assemblages of all kinds of experts telling you what it means, what it could possibly happen. when it's really very simple. Donald Trump is going to nominate a replacement. The Democrat Party is going to have a total 1,000% breakdown after he does it. I wouldn't be surprised if riots and mob activity happen over the course of the summer or whenever it is after that Trump names the replacement. They have just found themselves on the losing end of 3 seminal 5-4 decisions. Anthony Kennedy is their justice. They count on Kennedy. Kennedy has gotten all the Washington Post style section puff pieces. Anthony Kennedy is the guy they counted on to vote with them on their cultural upheaval issues, such as gay marriage, transgender bathrooms, that kind of thing. And for the most part, Kennedy was there in the latter stages of his career. And so he was called a swing vote on the court. The way the drive-bys, nobody else looks at this, you've got 4 conservatives over there, and you've got 4 liberals, and then Kennedy. And Kennedy would go either way, depending. Well, Trump probably is going to not nominate a centrist or a floater. Donald Trump is going to take advantage of the occasion and nominate another Neil Gorsuch, or as close to it as he can get. He will be heavily advised by the brilliant people at the Federalist Society, which is also going to cause the Democrats and the media to blow a gasket. You might really see heads explode here before the end of the day. And it's going to be panic. It's going to be sheer panic. These people are going to have gone from a high of a couple of months ago to a blue wave, Robert Mueller indicting Trump, and the Democrats impeaching, and Trump being sent packing, to this 3-5-4 decisions, including wiping out the Democrats' union advantage in fundraising, and now replacing the swing vote with a reliable constitutionalist. Not that Kennedy isn't, by the way. But Anthony Kennedy went to Washington the same year I left Sacramento. He was at McGeorge Law School in Sacramento. He was the nominee for Bork to replace Bork after, or was it Bork or Ginsburg? Oh, come on, brain, don't fail me now. I think it's the 80s. Well, it was either Bork or Ginsburg, but when either one of those were rejected, it was Anthony Kennedy chosen to replace him. And I got to know Judge Kennedy and some of his family for a while, shortly before leaving Sacramento, because left the same time, the same year, 1987. And he's going to be missed by the left. He's missed by everybody, but the left relied on this guy for their social justice stuff. And Trump's nominee is not going to be a floater, as I say. And the fight over this, they're going to be bringing up Merrick Garland. They're going to say some of the most ridiculous things. Schumer and the Democrats are going to be making some of the most ridiculous demands. And you just got to stay focused and keep your head above this, folks, because this is Trump's appointment to make, and it is a golden opportunity, and I think it's just the first of two. I think there's going to be another one. Before 2020, before Trump has to run for re-election, there's going to be another one. And the left knows, and the judiciary is their repository. That's the repository. That's where their insurance policy for losing elections is. But I just want to warn you, if you're going to watch cable TV, you're going to be inundated with every possible threat, scenario, disaster scenario. You're going to hear the positive things too, but it's going to be, these people are already out of control. They're already unhinged over things that are already happening, and this on the heels of these 5-4 decisions. They're going to be hoping and praying Mueller has something, anything, even if he has to make it up. So we'll keep a sharp eye as it all unfolds. Now, all I know is I've not read anything yet he's announced his plan to retire. Does that mean now or a year from now? Somebody needs to tell me this. This just happened right as the show intro theme was beginning. And, okay, yeah, it was after Bork. Bork and Ginsburg both failed. It was right on both counts. It was after Bork and Ginsburg failed that Anthony Kennedy was chosen. Anthony Kennedy retiring from Supreme Court. Fox says announces plan to retire. Does that mean I'm just giving everybody fair warning I'm leaving next year? We're going to track this down and find out. If you already know, forgive me for not knowing, but we'll correct that here in just a second. So let's get back before she's totally forgotten, before she becomes yesterday's news in the same day she became news. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Just a couple more things about this. Unseating the dinosaur white guy, Joe Crowley. We are here at audio soundbite number 7. She was on CBS This Morning today. Co-host Nora O'Donnell said, why do you think your message resonated with voters against that old white dinosaur guy in your district?
I think that a lot of working class Americans and voters here have been waiting for an unapologetic champion for economic, social, and racial dignity in the United States. And we provided a very direct message, a very clear message. I was the only candidate in the race that did not take corporate money in a time when economic marginalization is really increasing in New York City. So I think it created a lot of trust in our community, and our message really inspired a lot of folks that don't usually turn out in an off-year midterm primary.
So now we go to CNN, where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was being interviewed by the infobabe Poppy Harlow. Question, you said that you would favor proceeding with articles of impeachment against President Trump if you win in November. On what grounds should the president be impeached?
I think that there are serious grounds and violations of the emoluments clause from day one. I think that is first and foremost one of the basic elements of and violations on that. And then, you know, once again, it's hard to predict what's going to happen over the next few months. There are several more investigations happening.
Okay, so the emoluments clause, that's where you make money as president by using your presidential influence to profit in the private sector. Believe if there was anything to that, the Democrats would have already made a move on it and tried to disqualify, which they did, I think, a half-hearted way. Didn't amount to much. Here is Don Lemon last night on CNN's Tonight with Don Lemon, and he's talking with Dana Bash about Crowley's primary loss, what it means for the Democrats in the 2018 midterms.
What does this mean for the 2018, for this so-called blue wave? Can we read anything in here?
I think, obviously, at this point in the night, the most stunning election result is what we've seen from Representative Joe Crowley, the fact that he has been defeated from within his own party, a Democratic leader defeated from within his own party, from the left. I can tell you from talking to sources inside the House Democratic Caucus, it already is sending major shockwaves through their ranks.
Oh, yeah. See, major shockwaves through the ranks. Now, let me go to a story here by This Is the Associated Press. A couple of paragraphs here. Crowley was beaten by undefeated challenger Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a former Bernie Sanders organizer who caught fire with the party's left wing. Crowley's loss echoed across the political world, sending the unmistakable message that divisions between the Democrat Party's pragmatic and more liberal wings may be widening leading into the high-stakes November midterm elections. Now, what does that mean? Where is the Democrat pragmatic wing, anybody? There is not a Democrat pragmatic wing. Pardon me. The Democrat Party has gone full-on radical leftist. There isn't. The days of Bob Strauss and those old moderate guys that Republicans got together with, those days are over. There aren't any of those Democrats left. You think Nancy Pelosi is a pragmatic, centrist Democrat? How about Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren? She pragmatic, centrist. How about Maxine Waters? How about Hillary Clinton? Hillary Clinton, these people are all as radical as the newcomer is here. Now, the newcomer, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, said the community, whatever, I guess she means her district, the community, is ready for a movement of economic and social justice. Excuse me, didn't we just have 8 years of that? What do you mean the community is ready for it? We just had 8 years of economic and social justice, which gave us the worst economic recovery in history, which gave us a deeply divided country where rioting and looting became commonplace, where the left wing became so agitated, angry, and upset that they were burning down their own neighborhoods. Where are the pragmatists in the Democrat? Do you think Chuck Schumer's one of these pragmatists? These people have all gone far left. This woman is nothing new. What really has them upset, hear me loud and hear me clear. What has them upset is not that some radical young woman beat them. What has them upset is that somebody with no experience and essentially an outsider has come in and beat one of their big dogs, Joe Crowley. Yeah, I just got that. Thanks. Kennedy's retiring July 31st, so it's now. It's not next year or 6 months. It's now. I thought that was the case, but I just needed to make sure because there's misleading headlines. Announces plan to retire? No, he announced his retirement. It's a bad time in America to be a wordsmith. You end up being confused because you look at people who don't know how to use them. And I do. English comp. I didn't do well in college, but I aced that because I knew I was going to need it. Ballroom dance, I knew I wasn't going to need it, so I didn't go. Anyway, they're upset because an outsider came in with no experience and no ties to the big dog Democrats, came in and ousted this guy apparently with ease. She won this race by 15 points. They're all scared it could happen to them. But this isn't about pragmatism versus radical left. The whole Democrat Party is gone. Radical left, and make no mistake about it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special little deal going at the brand new EIB store at rushlimbaugh.com. I told you about this yesterday. We're doing this in honor of Independence Day. We have reintroduced the store. We've reopened it. We've restocked it with brand new stuff. Really, really cool polo shirts and baseball or golf caps, T-shirts, any number of things. We're really, really proud of it. And we're offering a little special in honor of the 4th of July coming up. If you purchase 2 apparel items, like one of the new era caps, which I love, or a T-shirt, and you would do that anyway. So you're not going to be asked to do anything you wouldn't otherwise do. If you buy 2 apparel items, we are going to include a very cute Rush Bear. This Rush Bear, it's white, it's dressed in a colonial outfit, blue colonial outfit, miniature American flag that it's waving around there. I'm not a big stuffed animal guy. But this thing, the Rush, it's so darn cute with this little American flag stitched on one paw, my signature stitched on the other. I have one sitting in my library at home. And we are going to automatically, when you go to the store and you start shopping, this bear, while supplies last, by the way, will just automatically appear in your cart. You don't have to do anything to get it. And it's El Fribo. And we're doing this in honor of the 4th of July. So all you do is go to the store. You can do it at rushlimbaugh.com on the web or use our app, which is also relatively new and fabulous and great. And by the way, just today, we hit a brand new all-time high membership at Rush 24/7, and I'm eternally thankful and grateful to all of you for making that happen. It's all exciting and it's all good. Now, this offer with the free bear is good only through tonight at midnight Eastern, or until supplies of the bear last. So hurry, get your order in as soon as you can. Remember, some of the proceeds from the new online Rush store go to the Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation, which is a phenomenal organization dedicated to providing college scholarships to the children of fallen heroes in the Marine Corps, and it's expanded to other services in cases of big, major, catastrophic events. So 4th of July next week, we're throwing the bear in, the patriotic bear, with what you would buy anyway. If you're going to go to the store anyway, you'd buy a couple things, a couple of apparel items, so you're just going to get the bear automatically appearing in your cart. It's at rushlimbaugh.com on the web, or easily accessible to store on the brand new rushlimbaugh.com app for both iOS and Android. Back here in just a second with much more. Reacting to Infobabe Brooke Baldwin upon hearing the news that Anthony Kennedy is retiring.
This could potentially transform the court for generations. And, you know, when you think of Justice Kennedy, you do think of someone who's a moderate. But his vote was crucial in a few areas, and let me just tick them off. Same-sex marriage, access to abortion, and affirmative action. Okay? So those are 3 areas in which he was a very key and deciding vote. And now with his retirement, of course, the president is going to get an opportunity to name another conservative to the bench. It will cause an uproar, I can tell you, on Capitol Hill. You're heading into the midterm elections here, Brooke. And so once again, the Supreme Court will become a huge issue for both Democrats and Republicans.
That's right. That's why it's bye-bye Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for the time being. Folks, you got to put yourself in their shoes. It's fun to do this. 2016. Hillary Clinton is going to win in a landslide. Barack Hussein Obama is leaving, and he's the best president ever. They just love him. He's the smartest. He's the best spoken. He's campaigning for Hillary, and he's guaranteeing that his agenda will continue because Hillary's going to win. And it's even better because Trump is the Republican nominee, and he can't possibly win. It's a slam dunk. Oh, man, it was orgasm time for the future. And then it all unraveled about 9 o'clock on election night, and then nothing has been the same since. And then for the next year and a half, the Democrats plotted and planned and prayed and convinced themselves that Trump would be gone inside of a few months. And when those months went by and Trump wasn't gone, they then convinced themselves that Trump is going to blow up and get gone himself. Nothing was going to happen. They're going to stop him. The media were going to separate Trump from his voters. And then the economy started coming back, and employment started going up, and unemployment started going down, and public confidence in the economy started rising. Everything was good. The Obama agenda was coming apart. It was being unraveled. And then today, the Supreme Court decisions this week, 3 of them 5-4, all of them going against the Democrats. 2 weeks ago, they were thinking and praying about a blue wave, winning the House back and impeaching Trump and bringing back Nirvana. And now their judge, their abortion judge, their gay marriage judge, their affirmative action judge, leaving. Oh, no. Can you imagine? Everything has gone to hell for these people inside of 2 years.